Hey guys, David here. Welcome back to the DGR podcast. I hope you are all doing well. This is episode number 104, which is the one after episode 103, which I'm just seeing on Spotify. I recorded that last episode on the 26th of June, and today is the 31st of July. So it's over a month since our last episode, but we have been busy. And as you know, the podcast has been a little bit less of a priority this year, which is not great. Oh, there's me playing the last episode by accident, which is not great, but it kind of is what it is. Some of the topics, I'm just going to do a solo one today. I have a few questions and topics that I've been asked and asked more frequently, and so it might be nice to chat about. So one of which is there a position you like to start people in if you're doing some breathing work with them? Another one is how do you program a spine movement into for people, especially for those who have back pain and haven't really been moving their spine that much. Another one is actually a topic that like comes up a bit, which is do you think physios are like kind of actively trying to not really help people that much so that they keep coming back to them and they stay in pain and they need them for longer? So those are the three main topics. And then another one is just a little bit of a question around, or a lot of people are asking questions around. We hit 200,000 followers on Instagram, and people are just asking like some questions about that. But I always get questions about content and stuff anyway, so I'll just chat very briefly about that. Just a quick life update. I just got back from Leverkusen. No, I got back at the end of last week from Leverkusen. I was teaching a private workshop there. And before that, I think the week before that, I was back from Munich from our second workshop in Munich for the year. Then before that, we had London. And then before that, we had Munich. So I've done maybe 4 workshops in 5 or 6 weeks. And I'm a little bit under the weather now over the last few days. So I picked up like a mini kind of flu sinusy thing, and that's just what happens when I travel. Like for example, I just don't do travel that well, to be honest. Like if I think about, right, so I flew into Leverkusen to teach a workshop. I flew in there on Wednesday night. I got off the plane at like 9 p.m. Wednesday night. I knew I needed to eat food straight away, because by the time I got to the hotel, I probably wouldn't have been able to get to anything to eat. All that was available in the arrivals section of the airport was KFC. So I had KFC, nice chicken burger, chips, and like a chicken drumstick with a bit of gravy. If you've ever had the KFC gravy, the only good thing that KFC do that's better than other fast food stuff is the gravy. So gravy is key. So had that on the Wednesday night. Went and taught. I don't really like to eat in the morning of when I'm teaching. I don't like to feel like sluggish or anything like that. I just drink a bit of coffee. So no breakfast. And then lunch, the closest thing to the clinic that I was teaching in was a Burger King. So for lunch, I had a Burger King. So 2 meals in a row was KFC and then Burger King. So like, no wonder I get a little bit sick when I travel sometimes, and I end up not in good shape and I don't get time to train. So like I arrived there Wednesday night. I taught Thursday and Friday basically all day. All I could do was just get in bed after that. And then I flew home Friday night, got home at like 1 o'clock in the morning Friday night, and then was just pooped all day Saturday and kind of Sunday as well. So yeah, I just need to figure out. That's why one of the reasons we're not teaching as many workshops this year, and one of the reasons, another reason is obviously Matty and stuff like that. But yeah, I just need to figure out like how to do travel better. And I know the obvious thing is like just don't eat shit, but yeah, so sometimes it's not that easy, and your sleep is interrupted, your training is definitely interrupted, and stuff like that. The other reason why a podcast, so that's why podcasting has been difficult. The other reason why the podcast has been difficult is because this year I kind of committed to making sure that our online coaching service was the best that it could be. So for a very brief background, I've been doing online work with people for a long time now, like at least 3 years probably before COVID. And if you weren't around then, there wasn't, it looks like it now, but there really wasn't many or anyone doing rehab. They were doing coaching, but like rehab stuff with people online back then, which was a really good thing for us, at least not to a high level, to be honest, at least not doing it well. And I was doing it really well. And just because I was kind of treating it like I would with people in clinic, it was the same. It was just the same training. I was just viewing it as like good strength and conditioning, good rehab. So COVID hit, and when COVID hit, everyone freaked out in the industry because physios and therapists and people who worked in rehab had never really done online, and they had, a lot of them had relied on their hands a lot. And even if they didn't do a lot of manual therapy, they still weren't used to working with people, and they hadn't done it online. So when COVID hit, I ran like a webinar. We had over 300 coaches come on to that webinar live. It's still actually available to watch on DGR Interactive, our member site. You can actually watch the webinar. It's called How to Attract, Assess, and Treat, and Successfully Treat Online Clients. Something like that. That webinar is still there. It talks about like exercises. It talks about those three things: attracting people, how you attract them to you, and how you get them to sign up for online coaching. It talks about assessing them online, and then it talks about treating them. Here's exercises you can use for this, for that. I haven't watched that webinar since I did it. 300 people did it live. Probably like closer to 2,000 or 3,000 people have watched it since then. And I still get people. Number one, I still get people writing to me all of the time that were on that original webinar, and they were honestly freaking out back then. People's livelihoods were gone basically, and they had felt like they had no ability to work online. And I remember one of my key messages then was like, perfect is the enemy of good enough. You're freaking out that you can't make your online session exactly like it is in clinic, but you need to remember that people are not coming to you for a technique. They're not coming to you for manual therapy, even if that's what you advertise. They're not coming to you for stretches. They're not coming to you for strength work. They're coming to you to feel better and to get back to the thing that you're trying to, whatever their goal is. Even if they tell you, I'm coming to you for a massage, they're not. They're coming to you for the feeling that they get, the result that they get from you. And that's important to always remember and to understand and to recognize. So that was my big overarching message in that webinar, was that's, don't worry if it's not the same or quite as good as it might be in person. It's going to be better than they have from anyone else. And I still say that to people. They're like, is it as good if I work with you online as it is in person? And I say, look, honestly, like, for some people it's better, for some people it's not as good. But the real question is, can I help you get to your result, your goal? And that the answer to that is yes, unless it's no, unless I think no, I can't. But like, that would be nothing to do with it being online. That would be more to do with it just being the wrong person for us. So that's the question to ask yourself. And it only needs to be good enough to get them to that goal. It doesn't need to be perfect. And the other thing to remember is that the people listening to this podcast, you're probably giving someone a much better service online than they would receive in person from 99% of the industry anyway. So it doesn't need to be as perfect as your in-person session might be. It just needs to be way better than what everyone else would do with them and help them way more. And so anyway, that was a complete sidetrack, but to continue on, I have been doing online for a long time. Then over the last couple of years since COVID opened up, when we started to travel a lot more, I wasn't really taking people on for longer periods of rehab. I was taking some, but not too many, for longer periods online. I was not really signing people up for like 12 weeks at a time or 6 months at a time for a longer rehab. I just didn't have the time or the energy, or like, I just didn't want to commit to people like that and then have to leave them down and say, well, I'm actually going to be away for the next week. And like, I won't be able to do a call with you. I might not be particularly responsive on my messages and stuff. So I didn't push that side of things at all, really, even though that was still a bit, online coaching was still a decent size, a decent part of our business over the last 6 years, but I didn't push it at all. I turned people down, I turned them away, and so on. But this year, when when Mimi came on, we have Alice there and we have Chris there, and we decided kind of as a team, right, let's do this properly. Let's not just do like one session, then get them booked in for the next time, then get them booked in for the next time if they need it. Let's actually get people who need it ethically signed up for a 12 weeks at a time. Let's get them committed. Let's commit ourselves. Let's only take on a select number of people and a select type of person that needs to work on certain things. Let's get the app set up properly. Let's get the sales side of it, like this is the price they're going to pay, this is the ongoing thing, blah blah blah. Let's get all of that set up. And for me to make sure that our team was doing it right, and to make sure, because I know some people, I do kind of humbly brag online sometimes. I'm aware of it. I'm aware that I say, I think this is the best rehab in the world. I'm not saying it by accident. I'm not saying it to annoy people or come across arrogant. I'm saying it as like a humble brag. I truly believe it is the case, but I'm not dumb to the idea that some people would be like, this guy is a dickhead talking like that. He's so arrogant. He's so full of himself. I know that might be the case, and that probably is the case, that some people think like that. But also, online, the problem with online is, well, if you want to think of it as a problem or not, you kind of have to beat your chest a little bit, because if you don't, someone else is beating their chest and someone else is shouting a bit louder, and there's people, honestly, that just are not good at getting results, that shout from the rooftops about how good they are. And like, you know them. You've probably gone and bought their courses, and it looks good. You'll see a lot of our work in it, and they're just crap. They just put together courses, and they don't actually work with people. They don't actually help people. They don't get results, which is, oh, I fixed this person's back pain in one day. All right, show me what they're doing in 6 weeks' time, not today when they walk out of your clinic. Show me what they're doing in 12 weeks' time. Show me you getting this person back to sport. That's what we want to see, not this like, oh, they feel better after 20 minutes of a treatment and 2 breathing exercises. Show me the progress that they're making. Show me how that sticks. Show me how it's predictable, repeatable, and residual. Those 3 key words that I always speak about. So for us to make sure that our service was what I say it was, I had to dive deep into it again. I took on quite a few clients, different types of clients, for like 12 weeks at a time. Sign up, I'll coach the crap out of you. We'll get all your videos. We'll progress you every week, or however you need to. I'll program for you in detail. I'll save some of the programs so that people in the future can see, here's the exact program that I wrote for this patellar tendon client over the last 12 or 16 weeks. And here's how we progressed. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. Here's the videos of them squatting. Here's what they weight they were squatting, and now they're and now what they're doing. Here's all of these variables. And I didn't just want to give that to our team and not actually feel how it feels myself, to really dive into detail with that again. So another big reason why the podcast hasn't been as up to date is because I've been busy on that. I've been very busy. And now I'm stepping back a little bit from that again. I still have I probably have like 6 or 8 clients on that side of things. And they are particular clients that I want to work with, that they're at a certain level of something in their life or their sport or whatever that makes it very fun for me to work with. And it's not that I wouldn't like working with other types of people. I just I can't be the head coach and the head podcaster and be the head of marketing and be the head of the business and manage all the staff and everything. And I've realized I cannot do all of that together. Well, I can. I can't actually. Sorry, the problem is I can do all of that. That's the problem, and I'll end up. It's just not sustainable. So I dived into that with our coaches, and now our online coaching system is at a stage where I think it's unbelievable. Not that it can't be better, but I think it's at a really good stage, and I'm so confident. And if you've seen some of the things that we've posted from our other coaches and physios, how we've posted the results that they're getting over the course of 3 months or whatever with their clients, like, it's astounding. It's amazing to see. And that's, if I want to teach our system or whatever you want to call it in the future, I have to be sure that it's not just me that's getting, like, oh, I'm getting these results, because some people then will say, okay, it's just because you have an online presence and people think you're good, so they're getting placeboed into getting results. Like, I can't have that be as a pushback on me, because it just can't. It has to be predictable and repeatable. It has to be predictable and repeatable for different types of clients and different types of coaches and physios across the world with their clients. So that's why I dived so deep into the online coaching for pretty much all of 2024 so far to this point, and now it's at a really good point and I can step back a little bit. I'm always going to be a coach. I always have to stay coaching. That's where I learn all of my everything from. Every single week I get sharper and sharper and sharper, and I see things that I didn't see before, or I understand things that I didn't understand before, or I have a problem that I haven't ran into before and you have to try and figure it out. So that's why our online coaching is in such good shape now, and that's why only then am I willing to, like, really kind of pass on that knowledge to the people that come to our mentorships and all of that stuff in the future. And I want them to be able to, I want to be able to share our system and other coaches can implement it with zero decrease in the success that they see. That's the goal. So that's a long spiel, hopefully about online coaching. You learn a bit from that there, but that's a long spiel around why the podcast hasn't been, and other things have had to take a little bit of a back seat. Online coaching, by the way, it can be very, very profitable in a lot of ways. You can, like, I don't know, I just can't see. Hang on, I'm just going to wipe my webcam here, make it a bit clearer. It's a bit fuzzy. I think that's better. I just can't see how any decent coach can't get to 10K a month in revenue. Even a one-person business, how you can't get to 10K a month in revenue, like, relatively quickly. And I know that sounds, say, I'm not trying to sell you anything here by saying that. I have nothing to sell to try and, yeah, I have nothing for you to buy by me saying that. So I don't want to sound like another business coach that just advertises online. But if you do online coaching well and you identify not like the most niche, but just a broad niche that you're going to serve, and you do it really well and you understand systems and you get results and you're smart with everything, like, 10K a month is so achievable revenue wise for if you do that. And you don't have to be a videographer. You don't have to have the best or the most content in the world. Honestly, it's not that difficult. So that's just something that I'm going to leave you with without diving more into the revenue, the revenue side of things. I just had 2 nice boiled eggs and 2 slices of sourdough toast. That's the breakfast of champions. I've realized I've gone to it recently. I've had some debates around how long the eggs should be in the boiling water for. Kira says 7 minutes, so I stick with 7 minutes. But you have to get them out of the boiling water at 7 minutes. You can't just turn off the hob and leave them in the water. 7 minutes and out. If it goes 7.5 minutes, it gets that little bit too hard. So 2 boiled eggs, 1 on each slice of sourdough, A little bit of like sea salt on top. Very nice. Okay, is there a position you like to start people in if you're doing breathing work with them? Yes, I think I've most likely spoken about this several times on the podcast. I like to start people in supine, lying on their back with their knees bent, feet on the floor. The reason is the floor can be safe for people. You can relax. You can be aligned or stacked or whatever word you want to use, but the floor is a great option for that. It doesn't mean that you can't flare your ribs up to the sky, or it doesn't mean that you can't crunch your ribs down or tuck your pelvis too much or untuck it or whatever. It just means your pelvis, your rib cage, and your skull are going to be on the floor. Hopefully, some people you need to put a little pillow under your head, but they're going to be relatively aligned there, and people don't have to worry about that. That's a good option because with your breathing, you do want to stack your pelvic floor or your diaphragm above your pelvic floor. That doesn't mean tucking your pelvis and crunching your ribs down. It just means that they're on top of each other. Without trying to force anything like that to happen. So supine is very good for that. It's very good for that, like alignment and stacking without people having to worry about it. Number one, it's very good for relaxing. Number two, not everyone, but a lot of people can relax a bit more when they lie on their back than they could in standing or in seated or in whatever position. So just lying down helps people relax, which is number two. Number three, it's usually quite safe for people. And even if you don't think that, like, even if consciously you're not thinking, well, standing is safe as well, sitting is safe as well. Of course it is. But lying on your back for a nervous system that's maybe in kind of fight or flight or sympathetic or whatever, lying down is usually, not always again, but usually a bit more like safe. It's a little bit more letting go, which pairs with the previous point of just relaxing. Also, it's quite good for sense. So the cool thing about the floor is that you can feel your body on the floor. You can feel your pelvis on the floor. You can feel what parts of spine are touching the floor and also aren't touching the floor. You can feel, let's say you're trying to get someone to inhale and like the goal is to try and get some expansion in their upper back. Contrary to what a lot of people say, that the floor blocks expansion. And I might have said that in the past, and it might not be completely inaccurate, but actually, because your back is on the floor, when your awareness of that area increases, and I actually think it increases the potential for expansion in that area, even though your back is against the floor. If you do a decent reach or something, you can open up loads of space in the back of the rib cage, and feeling that area will help with opening that area. If you stand up in space, it's hard to feel your back unless you squeeze your back muscles. Then you can feel it. It's not like your hands, for example. Like, you can feel your hands very easily. You can feel your feet. Well, not your midfoot necessarily, but you can feel your heel and you can feel your toes. You can feel your midfoot when your weight is on it, but you can feel certain parts of your body. Your back, you can't maybe feel that well, unless, of course, it's in pain, and then you can't not feel it. You feel it all of the time. So I think supine is quite a nice position. But let's say this: when you're first teaching someone a breathing exercise, or what the position is overrated and overstated. What you want to teach people in the beginning is the breath cycle, and that actually doesn't matter where you teach it to them. It doesn't matter that much. My choice would be supine, but what you want to teach is what a quality inhale feels like, what a quality exhale feels like, what a nice pause feels like, the length of it that you're looking for. And that's not to say, I know some people will strawman the breathing, which is like, oh, you have to teach people how to breathe. Not really, but like, if they're alive, they're breathing. But in the context of we're trying to get them to breathe so that something happens in their body, then yes, we're trying to get them to breathe in a different way than they are so that something different happens. So don't strawman it, which is what people do, which is like, oh, like, if you're alive, you're breathing. Yeah, but that's not the conversation we're having. We're trying to actually get them to do something. That's like saying, oh, like someone has a post-op ACL. They're walking, but they're not bending and straightening their knee. So yes, we need to teach them how to do that again. So just because they are doing something doesn't mean they can't do it better. So this is just a job of coaching. It's just, and people understand that, but they just don't. They strawman it when it comes to breathing. So what really matters is the quality of the breath cycle and less so the position. What I see a lot of folks who do a lot of breathing work online, they are obsessed with the position. Should we lie someone in right side lying or left side lying? Like, what a bullshit conversation to have. Because if you're doing breath work with someone, you're doing it because probably, outside from the relaxation benefits and the nervous system, parasympathetic, blah, 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 benefits. You're doing it maybe to get them to expand the compressed area, which means if they're super compressed, a good quality breath cycle is going to expand the compressed area. And you need to focus much less on, should I lie in right side lying or left side lying or prone or supine or standing or all fours or seated or whatever. People just juggle through all of these positions, trying to find the perfect one that's going to expand their left posterior mediastinum. That's a load of crap. What will expand it is just going through a much better breath cycle than they previously were. That's what's going to get them to expand and compress their ribs. Only if you can actually get that to happen, then maybe we can have a conversation around, should I do this reach or that reach? Should I lie in this position or that position? So to answer your question, I like supine, but the focus when you're teaching it in the beginning needs to be on the quality of the breath cycle, not the position, not the pelvis, not the reach, not the million other things. It needs to be on how the air comes in through your nose and out through your nose, or in through your nose and out through your mouth, and the timing and the rhythm and the coordination of that breath cycle. So I hope that helps, but I think supine is the best for the most part. Tall kneeling is the other one that I'm not going to get into. Tall kneeling helps with a particular type of person that loves to do a particular type of thing. Tall kneeling is the best for those. But I'll leave that on a cliffhanger. Okay, next one. How do you program spine movement into people's program, especially those with back pain who have been actively avoiding moving their spine, e.g. flexion? So, okay, good question. There's a million ways to go about it. And like the thing with this, actually it goes back to the last question a little bit as well. There's no perfect position or perfect program here. The main thing with regards to this is that you're able to get them to start to move their spine in a non-threatening way, in a way that encourages movement without forcing anything, without driving them into any sharp pain. It's not that you have to avoid pain, but you just want to not cause like a humongous flare up if you can. Not because a flare up is the end of the world. A flare up is not the end of the world, and you need to communicate this with your client. But because if they flare up, one, there's a chance you'll lose them as a client. Two, you lose the time when they flared up, which could be a week or 2 weeks before they get back to baseline. Three, because it's more evidence in their mind, not necessarily strong evidence, but it's more evidence in their mind that actually I should be avoiding moving my spine. And that's a dangerous thing. Flare-ups are not bad. Flare-ups are you as a therapist or a coach pushing your client a little bit, which is a good thing. And sometimes you need to dip a toe in or you need to push forward so that you actually know how far is too far. That's not bad. I like to be ambitious with my clients, and I say that all the time. If we're going to flare you up, especially when they come and visit me, I'm like, okay, you might be. I always say when we do something new, I say this. I'm sick to the teeth of saying this, but I say this every single time I do something new with a client, especially someone who's like chronic pain type of person. I say, you might wake up and your pain might be a little bit worse tomorrow. If it is, number one, don't panic. Agree. I want you to like shake hands with me or give me a pinky promise that if you wake up and your pain is worse tomorrow, you don't freak out and you don't think this is a disaster. I'm saying this now so that we both understand that actually there is a chance that this could happen. And it's not a bad thing. It's just us figuring out where we can push you to, how much is too much. And it doesn't mean we even did anything wrong today. Maybe the position was good, maybe the movement was good, maybe we just did too much and we just need to bring it back a little bit. But if we never push forward at all, we will never know how much too much is. So it's just good information. So that's what I say all of the time with my clients. And if you are good enough to have a conversation like that, you won't lose people with flare-ups. But if you continually flare people up, or if they've been continually flared up or had a lot of pain in the past, then it can be an issue, because each flare-up in their mind is evidence that they can't get better, that they're not going to improve, that they shouldn't be moving their spine, and so on. So what I think you want to do when you're starting to program someone like spine movement into their day, for someone who has been avoiding a lot of spine movement and maybe afraid of it, is I think you want to offer a lot of proof throughout the day and throughout the week that these movements are okay again. And so in that regard, I think consistency beats intensity every single time. I think it's much better than saying, right, twice a week in the gym, I want you to do this Jefferson curl and this spinal extension exercise and this oblique raise. I think it would be much better in the beginning if you said 3 times a day when you're sitting at your desk or you're sitting on your chair, I want you to put your feet on the floor. I want you to slouch down, touch your hands off the floor by rounding your back, and then lift back up again. Then I want you to do that going down the middle. I want you to do that going down the outside of your right leg. I want you to do that going down the outside of your left leg. There we go. Do 4 reps in each direction. There's a little bit of proof to them that actually rounding my back isn't too bad. It feels okay, and I didn't have any crazy negative consequences after doing that. If we can start to get that to happen, maybe we can do the next set or tomorrow or next week in a standing position. Maybe we can start to add flexion and rotation together. So I'm twisting my spine as I run my hands down the outside of my right leg. And then I'm sweeping across the front of my body, still in a flex position. Then I'm coming back up the outside of my left leg. And as I start to come back up to the top, I'm staying rotated left and I'm starting to extend my spine and turn left. Then I extend all the way to the right and sweep back down in a flex position again. So we're starting to add flexion and rotation and extension and rotation and some frontal plane movement to that. And I think I think that consistency of movement, I think that slight variability of movement will be much better than just trying to drive intensity in the gym once or twice a week. It's not to say that you can't do that as well, but that would be like, I don't know. I don't like to break things into phases, but that would be like phase 2, maybe, where we start to load it. But early on, for chronic someone, find a few positions that they can do 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, a few reps, and get that consistency in, get that proof in, get that movement in, that these positions are okay, and maybe we can increase the load and intensity over time. But consistency and frequency, I think, will be more important in the beginning. I actually had a girl at the Leverkusen workshop, shout out to Vivi. She was a brilliant participant, very happy, jolly, just asking good questions, very smart girl. And she had chronic back issues since she was like 6. She said she actually had an operation on her neck to take out. Can't remember which muscle you said, Vivi. One of the muscles in her neck. Something got twisted at birth or something. Yeah, it was probably at the end of the long couple of days that you're telling me this, but I was really interested. I wasn't just pretending to be. But yeah, and I think her breathing got disrupted then, and she ended up with like just not much spine movement for the next 20 years, or maybe she avoided it or whatever. And she has a lot of quite a bit of stiffness around her spine and some pain. And even though it was a lower limb course, we actually just did what I said basically there. It came up and we said, right, let's have a little look. I think she was struggling with 1 or 2 of the exercises for the lower limb because the lack of spine movement maybe was getting in the way, or the pain was getting in the way. So I kind of jumped into a little mini treatment session there, and we just did that. We did that on the box. We did that in standing, and yeah, she started to feel good. Like she went from flexing over a little bit to like being able to reach her knees, then to being able to reach the floor, then to be able to reach the floor with flexion and rotation. And that happened in whatever 15 minutes. And then I had to say, because I'm honest, I had to say, someone said like, oh, like she's fixed or whatever. I was like, no, like I know a lot of people in a lot of workshops will stand up and say, look, I fixed her back pain. I see that online all the time. This is what I'm saying about the people whose courses you go and buy who are like they're putting up content how I fixed this person's back pain, and they did 2 exercises and they said they felt better after the exercises that day. That's not proof of anything. um so I had to say honestly, like this isn't proof of anything. This is just where me personally, I would consider starting her here, and I would like to see this improve over the course of a week. Then maybe we could progress and go from there. So that's what I said to her, and we had that conversation around programming and stuff. And I said, just go for consistency in the beginning. Try and get this in 2 or 3 times a day. It shouldn't take more than 5 minutes each time, maybe 2 minutes each time, and if this has been going on for 20 years or 15 years or whatever, like let's think about consistency and frequency in your across your week and across your day, rather than just looking for, okay, do 3 sets of 10 reps twice a week in the gym. I don't think that's good enough, and I don't think that's enough proof for a body, consciously or subconsciously, that these movements are okay again. I think you need to be consistently going about your day and doing them. So yeah, I hope that answers that question, and I hope that makes sense. And that's definitely how I would go about programming someone with a very stiff spine back that's unsure of these movements. Try and get them in throughout the day if you can. Okay, third question: do you think physios actively try to use poor practices to keep people in pain for longer? I think that sounds really bad, right? When you read it out like that, it really does. It sounds bad. And I think there is definitely some of that going on. And I think when I think of that, rightly or wrongly, and don't just turn off the podcast as soon as I say this, but I think of chiropractors when I think that. And I know a lot of brilliant chiropractors that are way better than most of the physios I know and most of the coaches I know. So I'm not trying to label everyone. Just like, I think that label has been thrown at chiropractors, that they're just clicking and cracking them and saying, right, see you in 3 days. Like I literally do know some chiropractors who see people 3 times a week for 6 months at a time. And in that instance, I would have to say that the answer to this is probably it's probably yes. Like surely they know that they're not helping these people. And if they don't know it, if they don't realize after 6 months of doing this that they're not helping them, then either they're incredibly unethical or they're just idiots. And I don't know which one of those is worse. Like, they must be just absolute dummies if they don't actually realize this is not helping someone. So if they're not idiots, because like to pass your exams and to build a business, you're probably not a big idiot. You probably have a brain cell or two. So like that does leave the unethical thing, which is you are just doing this because you know that you're going to make a shit ton of money off them. Like, why would after 6 months, maybe the 6 months and 1 week, maybe that this time when I click and crack their back, something is going to be different. Like maybe it will, but the body of evidence doesn't point to that as a conclusion. And if that is the conclusion, the body of evidence is much more likely to say, actually, time is starting to take its course at this stage and someone is starting to heal on their own. So I would say, yes, that is definitely evident in a lot of therapists. It's evident in the industry, not just physios, not just chiros. It's evident in the industry that some people just work in a crap way, and that they're a little bit unethical, and they just keep people coming back and back and back, even though they know they're not helping them. But I do not. I really struggle to believe, and I've met a lot of people. I really struggle to believe that that is the overwhelming majority. I don't think. I think the overwhelming majority are not doing that at all. Even if they're not good physios or not good therapists, I just really struggle to believe. I think most people have good intentions, and I had a quote, or I read a quote a long time ago, and I think it's a nice little quote to remember, because we always try and, when we see people doing something that we don't agree with, we always try and think like they're a dickhead. They're I think a lot of people's automatic thought is like they're kind of evil, they're kind of this and that. And the quote is, do not attribute to malice that which can be explained by stupidity. Do not attribute to malice that which can be explained by stupidity. And what that means, I think, to me in this instance is some of these people just aren't very good. And stupidity might be strong because they're not stupid, but they haven't been shown a better way. They just don't know what good is. They think that they're doing a good job. They know that like some of these people aren't getting better or whatever. But if they had the choice of like keeping them for long, oh, I just put my chair down. If they had the choice of by accident, keeping them for longer and not, I think like after a while, I think most people would say, no, I want you to get better. It's just that I don't know how to help you. And that goes for all of us. All of us don't know how to help someone. We all struggle with certain clients at certain times for various reasons. But I don't think it's malice. I don't think it's people trying to keep people in pain for the most part. I just think in general in the industry, we are just not good. We are not only not good, we are shit. We're really bad. And yeah, I think in general, it's so easy when you don't know someone to just point the finger at them and say, this person is a dickhead, this person is evil. Some people are dickheads, but like, I think for the most part, people do want to help people. They just don't know how. And if I look at some of the workshops we've taught recently, there's people in there that have come out of college recently. There was a couple of people in each of the last couple of workshops who are fresh enough out of college, like they just got their physio degree in the last 12 months, and really good, really smart, really good, young, like hungry to learn and so on. But like, I've had conversations like they're kind of clueless, and not in a bad way, and no reflection on them, but like they're like, our teachers haven't taught us anything about movement, anything about communication with clients. You know, the way I said with that girl, like, who had the back issue, that I come away and say, like, okay, like, I don't know if this is going to be the thing that helps her. Maybe she wakes up and she feels worse tomorrow. Maybe she feels better tomorrow. I don't know. My experience tells me I think this will help her feel better, but I don't know for sure. But that answer was very foreign to those people. They were listening to that, and then they were like, what do you mean? Like, surely you need to be able to say this helps that. And I'm like, where did you get that idea from? And it's from their university, it's from their lecturers, who probably don't work with clients, to be honest. And it's an X equals Y equation when they're learning. There's no room for gray area. It's like, what is the answer to the test? And when you're working with people, anyone who works with people has to realize that there is no one right answer. And even if you help them, you need to be humble enough to say, I don't know exactly why that helped. If that movement helps that client, that girl that I'm talking about, Vivi, like, is it because she just got exposed to the movement? Maybe. Is it because she started to build strength in the movement? Maybe. Is it because it's a sensory thing? I think a large part is this: we open up space, we move into space that you haven't felt before, and your brain and body gets to feel these areas come to life again, and then it gets to like unlock this area, or whatever the word is that you want to put on it. I don't know, there's no right word or perfect word, but it gets to like just feel these tissues load again, and suddenly like it can kind of let go. Like, I think sense is a huge part of it. That feeling of moving into something. But I wouldn't hang my hat on it. I wouldn't bank on it. I think, is it because it was me who told her to do it, and maybe 100 people in the past have told her, but I'm the guy teaching the workshop that day, and maybe there's a bit more authority there. Yeah. Is it because it's a placebo thing? Is it because a million things? I don't know. Like, I don't have the right answer. And I think you need to be humble enough to say most importantly, to say to yourself, like, I don't know exactly why this helped, but I know it helps a lot of people, and I know it's a much better direction to move in than not doing it, and it's a much better direction than just focusing on the pain and trying to rub the pain away or take painkillers or brace and do Stuart McGill stuff. Like, a better option is to move your spine and to just treat things in a graded exposure way. Let's gently move into the movements that we need access to, and then load that over time and start to increase load, speed, and complexity around these movements, and start to look at myself talk and all of this stuff. So I don't think that there is a lot of people with a lot of malice in our industry. No. I think there is a lot, but I don't think they're the majority. I think there is a lot of people that are not doing a good job and know they're not doing a good job and are faking things online. I do think there's a lot of those, but there's also a lot of people in the industry. So I don't think those are just like loud people. I think there's people who are, no, I won't even go into it because it's not even worth, they'll know who I'm talking about. But I don't think that it is the majority. I just think the majority of people are trying their best. They're just not very good because, in general, the industry is just not very good. So I hope that answers the question. The last one was around content. Some people ask me, like, I've had a few like specific conversations around it, but I did like a 5-minute video, if you want to go and watch that, around hitting 200K, what that meant. Are followers important? And I spoke about how, yes, I think followers are important. Just ask anyone who has a big following. There's this like virtue signaling thing of, oh, I have 500,000 followers. Don't focus on followers. Followers are not important. But like, ask that person to delete their account, and they won't. Ask that person to give up 100,000 followers. They won't do that. So followers are important, but there's 3 important words that you hear all of the time online, which is know, like, and trust. Do people know you? Do they like you? And do they trust you? And the overwhelming thing that I had come back from some of these chats that I had with people around trying to build a bigger following or build a social media that helps generate revenue. Ultimately, it's about revenue. In the long run, not necessarily your strategy shouldn't necessarily be about revenue in the short run, but ultimately, for me, I'm posting on social media not for the good of my health. I'm posting ultimately to make sure our business builds, and that is the ultimate goal of that is to make sure that we have the best life we can, and our staff are living their best lives, and our people that are our friends and family and are associated with us can get rewarded, and make sure them rewards are directed towards not just monetary gain, but living a happy and healthy life. So the 3 words are know, like, and trust. And I think most people's focus is on the know of those 3 words. I want people to know who I am. And I think you need to put equal weight on the know, the like, and the trust. If people don't know you, they can't like you and trust you, so that's useless. If people know you and they don't like you, then that's useless. No one, for the most part, people are going to sign up to work with someone that, 1, they have to know who you are. 2, they have to like you. They don't have to love you, but they have to like you. They have to think, they have to like you. This is where the lifestyle aspect of it comes in. This is where sharing your personality on social media comes in a little bit of. This is where hopefully the podcast stuff comes in. Like, I want you guys to like me. I don't want you to listen and think that's good information, but he's an idiot. Like, or not even he's an idiot. That'd be the wrong word. I just don't like him. I want you to like me, not just because of the business, but like, I don't know. I hear people all of the time like, I don't care what people think of me. Is that true? Does anyone actually live like that they don't care what people think of them? Like, I do. I don't want. I don't know. I care less what people think of me, but like, I would get upset if loads of people are going around saying he's an idiot, he's an idiot, he's a dickhead. Like, I know some people are saying it, but like, as a whole, I hope people aren't saying that. I know some people are saying it, and some of them are right. So maybe some of the time, some of them are bitter, probably a lot of the time, or have different reasons. But like, overall, I don't want people to think that. So like, if you're saying I don't care what people think of me, I saw that the other day and I'm just like, what? That's bullshit. Like, of course you do. But yeah, for the most part, like, people are gonna, let's say you've ticked off the no category. So people know you and they know another coach that serves a similar niche than you. Genuinely, they're much more likely to sign up with you if they like you versus if they like you more than that other coach. Like is important. So that's where sharing your personality is good. And then trust is, they might know you and like you, but they don't really trust you that much. As in, trust gets developed through proof that you have helped people in a similar situation. You have, trust is that you can do what you say you can do, and that comes in the form of testimonials. That comes in the form of speaking about topics and sharing your work, and it also comes in the form of um consistency. I think trust comes from consistency. Anyone can do one video or one testimonial, but if you post a testimonial every day or every week for years, people are going to trust you. So trust comes hopefully in the form of longer form content as well. And longer form doesn't have to be an hour, it could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes and stuff like that. Trust comes from, yeah, it comes from like me speaking to you guys for an hour here. Again, even if you don't like me that much, hopefully you trust me that like, I'm not editing this podcast. Ash and Kira are just gonna take this. I'm gonna write to them 30 seconds after I'm finishing this podcast, and I'm gonna say, here's the title. It's episode 104. Drop in this ad somewhere in the middle, and I don't even have to say that. And like, that's it. Off you go. And hopefully that develops trust that I'm consistent with my message, I'm consistent with my content, I'm consistent with my results. And that's where trust comes from. So the overwhelming thing that came from some of those messages around building a big following is people are too focused on the no category. And there's a lot of people that start to build a big following. And honestly, the bigger it gets, as they start to build, they cannot hide their true personality, and people just don't like them. And there's a couple of people that I know well in this industry, and I kind of like them, but I know a lot of people that really don't like them. And this is important, right? This is what I'm about to say is important. You don't need everyone to like you, because you're going to have every there's always an equal and opposite. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So you're just going to have a certain amount of people that just really don't like you, and a certain amount of people that do like you. But you need to have people that like you too. So that comes from the last thing you can have is people just saying like, yeah, they're okay, and like, there is no reason to like you. So give people the reason to like you, and then give people a reason to trust you, which is, knowing is creating content that gets shared. Simple as that. Liking is creating content that shows your personality and shows your life. Simple as that. Trust you is creating content that shows you as the expert that you are. Simple as that. Or showcases your knowledge and showcases your results. Simple as that. Know, like, and trust. Place equal weight on all three of those things, and don't fall into, I just want my reels to go viral so I get more followers. That's a recipe for an unhappy life, I promise you. So I'm going to leave the podcast there. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful. Hope it was very rambly, but it is what it is. And yeah, go and buy some of our stuff. We have Lower Body Basics Phase 1, which is where I start with all my hip and groin and hamstring and quad and knee clients. We have our foot, ankle, and Achilles program, where we go with all of our, that has a bonus big toe section in it. So all our big toe clients are arch clients, our foot clients, plantar fascia, Achilles, calf, shin, perineal, tendon, all that stuff, ankle dorsiflexion. We have lower body basics phase 2, which is just a progression from phase 1. We have core basics, which is all of our like trunk stuff. So like midsection, core training, some breathing work. We have upper body basics, which has a lot of wrist and elbow and shoulder and scap and upper back work. And that has a bonus neck section in it. So I think if you guys listen to this podcast, I know I'm biased. I think you should own all of those things. They're very cheap. No, cheap is a bad word, because cheap could be like cheap crap. They're very good value. You'll learn a lot from them. I promise you'll get a lot of gold in there. And then the other thing that we have is DGR Interactive, our membership site. That's where we have over 1,000 coaches and therapists learning with us. You need about 10 or 15 minutes a week. There's probably 200 hours of content on there that you can watch, all broken into like 10-minute little clips. And within that, don't panic if you're like 200 hours. How would I ever get through that? We have 2 important sections in there for people to start with. One is a biomechanics 101 section. So that has 13 lessons in it, which are lessons that I think everyone should understand to help you understand movement. And that's like, each of those are between 10 and 20 minutes long. So you can just watch one a day if you want, one a week if you want. And then the other section is a recent upload section. So we keep 4 or 5 videos in that section all of the time, and it just has the most recent upload. And that, a lot of people just stay up to date with that. They just watch whatever I upload whenever they can, in a week, every second week or whatever. And it's like, for the value, for the price that you get, there's so much content there. There's so many people every single day and every single week that write to me saying they are building their business off the back of learning on DGR Interactive and learning from our programs. And remember what I said about the revenue and stuff like that, and getting up to a certain revenue point and a certain goal in your business. That needs to come from good education. That needs to come from getting good results. And you can learn from a lot of places. I think you can learn from us. But again, I'm biased. Maybe you think that there's elsewhere that you can learn from. And there is, of course there is. But I think we have really good stuff too. So that's the end of the episode. I hope you had fun. I'm going to go, and it's sunny outside. Heat wave here, 21 degrees. So I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do some jiu-jitsu later. I'll have 2 months now without travel. So hopefully that's 3 to 4 jiu-jitsu classes a week for 2 months, and maybe 2 to 3 tennis games, epic tennis matches for the next 2 months. And I'll see if I can start to shed the Burger King pounds that have crept up. Yeah, hopefully it'll be a nice rest of the summer. So chat to you guys hopefully very, very soon.